Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of my past guests have included Dr. John Randall of XFA Coaching, Andy Schwartz of BFG Wealth Partners, and Katie DeFeo of SunWest Federal Credit Union. Today is a special episode in my series on new and emerging solutions, and today's guest is Eden Ovadia, the CEO and co-founder of FINNY. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using Quick, you'll be able to generate completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, I'm excited to talk to today's guest. Eden launched FINNY alongside her co-founders in May of 24 to tackle the organic growth challenge facing RIAs. FINNY's AI technology automates lead identification, prioritizes high-potential prospects, and streamlines how advisors connect with clients. Under Eden's leadership, FINNY has been seeing early success, earning acceptance into the Y Combinator Startup Accelerator program, and raising $4.3 million in a seed round in December of 24. She brings a deep background in AI, software engineering, and entrepreneurship to her work, combining technical expertise with a strategic lens. Before co-founding FINNY, Eden was an associate at Boston Consulting Group, where she primarily worked in tech, financial institutions, and private equity practices. Eden, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Thank you. I am super excited to be doing this.
Oh, I'm happy you're here. For those who haven't heard my podcast before, I love to talk to business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. So Eden, let's understand your business a lot better. How does your company really help people?
So my company, FINNY, helps financial advisors better find and serve their clients. We do this with data, AI, and automations. And the idea is with better data and automations, financial advisors can use that to match with potential clients in a more efficient way. And then once they do have their clients, use data to serve them better. And so our altruistic mission has not only been to create better financial advisors, but to deliver better outcomes for the average consumer in America who needs financial advice. That's around 40 million households that might need advice.
I love it. So if I heard you right, there's kind of a two-pronged approach here. How do you find and attract these clients? Then how do you serve them with the data? So does this mean lead generation? Does this mean building relationships? I mean, because look, I was an advisor over 20 years ago, and it was always about dinners and meetings in person. There was none of the social stuff. So how do you do it?
Yeah, it's all of the above. If anything, with the rise of all this new technology and AI, the in-person connection you're alluding to is actually so much more important to build the relationships. And so the idea is with our software, you can actually automate away all the manual or repetitive nature of what you'd have to do to actually get in front of the right prospects with the face time that you need.
Okay, so does that mean like just scheduling meetings, or does it mean finding people in the needle in the haystack in a group of people you belong to or something?
So it helps advisors. So super tactically, what we do is we have a database of everyone in North America. So Rich, for example, you're in it, I'm in it. Everyone that you know is in it. I know, a little creepy. And we're tracking things from what you're looking up online based off your cookie data to your money in motion events to your employment history and educational history. So we have all this massive amount of unstructured and structured data about everyone in North America, and we're tracking it every single day. And so when a financial advisor comes to us, they can say, hey, Eden, I want to find people who went to my high school who are now business owners who are looking up exit planning keywords online because I'd love to reach out to them and help them think through the exit of their business, for example. And so FINNY can actually be that tool or that platform that helps them identify people they can actually help, reach out to them at the right time, craft the right message, and automate and sequence all of that kind of like autonomously on behalf of the advisor.
Oh my gosh. Right. I mean, advisors have their niches. They have their ideal customer profile, hopefully. and they're running that with you. So what is the success rate? I mean, if I said, I just want to talk to people who are willing to sell their business or looking to sell, don't they all have advisors already?
No, you'd be surprised actually. I think the Wall Street Journal came out with an article last week about this like massive resurgence of the ultra high net worth class, and there's something like over 400,000 households that have over $30 million in assets, and most of these are kind of like the unknown millionaires next door. They're not, in Manhattan or Palo Alto, and they typically don't have access to the financial service or level of financial services they need that you would expect them to have. And so that's the idea behind Finny, kind of like the matching and optimization between the financial advisors that exist today and people who need financial advice.
Wow. Okay. And the second part, I mean, this is actually once you've won the customer, I guess you're using this data to help them do more. Is it like expand in their business or what?
Yeah, so since we launched Finny about 2 years ago, one of the craziest learnings is that oftentimes Finny knows more and has more accurate data about your clients than you do. Because you might, have updated your CRM once 20 years ago when they became a client, but then haven't refreshed it over time. And so the idea is we can constantly refresh the information and help surface opportunities to deepen the relationship with your clients. And so maybe they're looking up 401k planning online, and this is a great time to reach out and kind of answer their questions that they're going online to answer. Maybe they got promoted or they bought a house and or are going through all these money in motion events. And so it's uncovering opportunities to reach out to your clients too.
Okay. I don't know if this will be a hard question, but
Dude.
one of the things I've learned in talking to people over the last 3 years is that we all have access to the same AI tools. I can get ChatGPT just like you can, right? So
Mhm.
the thing I've figured out that makes us different is our data.
That's
And
right.
you just said you have all this data. So is this your data you sourced, or is this everybody could get access to this data and then build what you've built?
Yeah, such a good question. Probably one of my favorite questions. There is a massive amount of publicly available data that the average person can go online and aggregate. The secret and the really hard part of what we do is the data aggregation and reconciliation, as well as having a data science team actually go out and source proprietary data sets. And so not only are we looking at all the information that's available publicly online, we also have licensing agreements with over a dozen different vendors that specifically bring data points that would help financial advisors. And so you could think of things like donation records, 501(c) records, intent signals based off people's cookie data. We have agreements with web publishers, thousands of web publishers, to give us back their cookie data, essentially, and then we can de-identify that. And so you can probably build yourself a version of Finny that gets you 20 to 30% of the way there. But it's all that extra data that's really, really hard to get that we're quite good at getting. And then when you think about like what data really makes us different, it's the fact that we've been around for over 2 years now and have literally hundreds of thousands of interactions that have taken place on our platform that we're able to train our model on in an anonymized way. And so our models actually are getting better and better at drafting content, figuring out who is going to have a high likelihood of converting and matching the advisor to the right prospect. That's the data. That's the biggest difference.
Okay, so now I'm super curious. I don't always go into origin stories with people because you tell your origin story all the time, I'm sure. But I'm just super curious now. The data that you're buying must be very expensive when you put it all together. You had
Mhm.
to learn what data you needed, so that took time. Where did you start? Like, how did you guys come up with this idea of like, hey, let's get a bunch of data and go build this thing?
Yeah, so my background is in machine learning and software engineering, so it is somewhat relevant. But then after college, I went to work in private equity, as you mentioned before, at Boston Consulting Group. And what struck me and what I got the chance to work with was the wealth management M&A division. And so it was helping a lot of these wealth management firms and aggregators on the inorganic growth side of things. And so everything from advisor recruiting to buying up practices to rolling them up and aggregating them. And it became so clear that there was a huge gap in the industry from an organic growth side of things. Most firms just couldn't figure out how to actually grow organically through client acquisition. And so the more cost inefficient way of growth was M&A and buying other books of businesses. And so
Mhm.
it was clear to us very, very early that organic growth and helping advisors with like growing their businesses was really important. And then when we actually spoke to advisors and asked them, like, how are you growing today? Like, what's working? Um, there was just such a lack of good technology and good tools available to them. Most advisors I was talking to were either sitting back waiting for referrals, or they were going out and trying to aggregate data on their own using like a pitch book plus Zoom Info plus LinkedIn. And it was taking them 60 hours of business development to convert one new client. So just like massively inefficient. And so the secret was not only bringing them the data, but bringing them the automations on top of the data that they can actually set and forget in the background.
Wow. Does that make Finny unbelievable? Is it hard to sell Finny sometimes because people are like, you can't do that. It's not possible. We've tried that type of stuff.
What we're building is so in the realm of a new category that it actually is quite hard in a 15-minute demo call or a pitch to kind of comprehensively explain everything we do in detail. So yeah, it's spot on. It's just there's really no one else doing what we're doing.
Yeah. How do you overcome that?
Have really good sales team members that are really good at explaining what you do in simple ways.
Do you actually like give people free trials and give them free leads and things like that? I mean, where do you build the trust?
We try to have a lot of content online. So we have a YouTube channel that has tons of platform demos and content. We write a lot of articles on thought leadership. My team is always on the road, meeting people in person and doing demos live at conferences. And then beyond that, during the actual demo, when advisors come to us, we share a screen and walk them through the platform and let them kind of drive wherever they find it to be most interesting. Because the way we build the platform is there really is something for everyone. And so we kind of let our clients drive and tell us what part of the demo is most interesting to them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Ed, how do you spend your time? I mean, I joke. Some people golf, some people garden. My spare time is all building out AI stuff because I'm so fascinated with AI. And you have this AI background, and you're the CEO. So, where do you like to spend your time right now?
Probably similar to you. I've been obsessing with building my own internal AI productivity tools. And so when I'm not, working specifically on Finny, I'm just trying to automate as much of the rest of my job or my life as possible.
Yeah. So, do you get into software development? Are you a Claude code coder or something like that?
I am. I have to admit, so I graduated college, I don't know now, many years ago. And I haven't actually coded since I left college because I went right into private equity until last month. And so last month was the first time in years that I actually opened up Claude Code and started writing my own code and launching apps. It was really cool. It was quite daunting as someone, I have that technical background, but I haven't actually developed or written in a line of code in years. So it was like a bit scary to fire it up, but Claude Code makes it so easy to get started. It really is, even if I didn't have a technical background, I would have been able to figure it out. It's really super accessible.
So, I have a question in here, but I want to tell you my experience because I haven't coded for a decade. And I mean, I originally built Quick by myself, by hand, et cetera, but I haven't done coding for a really long time. And last summer, I said, I've got to understand this agentic coding capability. What is it like? And I literally said to Claude, please explain this to me like I'm a kindergartner. I don't
Yep.
even know what to do. And it said, oh, go get VS Code. I'm like, what is that? And then I said, tell me the file menu. Like, what do I click on to
Yep.
start something new?
I have to admit, I even was taking screenshots of the errors I was getting, and I was like, "Help me fix this!" Like
Right?
literally, like, what do I write? Like, what do I do? Like down to the exact, like basically, which is crazy because when AI came out, it was us giving the AI orders, and now it's kind of like giving us orders. Like especially when we're using Claude Code, I feel like I'm like, what do I do next? Like I'm asking the AI to guide me, to prompt me. So it's such a reversal of roles.
Yeah, it is. And it's so educational if you ask it to be educational and help you understand things. And that's how I've learned. So here's my question. I feel that there's a couple of perspectives on what AI is to the person, like what its role is. How do you treat AI? And I can give you the categories. Do you think of it as a tool set or do you think of it as like a peer, a human team member?
It's evolving more and more into peers, I would say. And within Finny specifically, we're getting away with keeping a significantly leaner team than we would have because everyone on my team is literally building agents to do their job for them. So instead of having to hire a team of 5 business operations, I can hire one person who can just build internal apps and tooling. It's pretty powerful in that sense, and it's actually it hasn't replaced headcount, but it's replaced the need to increase headcount for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I look at it too, is that it is definitely accelerating and being a force multiplier and slowing down the need to hire. And frankly, that's what technology has been doing all along. One of the earliest successes I had with Quick, we showed it to uh, the owner of a firm, an RA firm, and he's like, "If I get this, I won't hire the two people I was about to hire because I won't
Crazy.
need to anymore." It's great. But I want to share with you this. I think of the human interaction. Like it's obvious you're a human, I'm a human because we see each other, we just know it. And as humans, we will treat each other as humans without thinking about it. And we will do things like, hey, Ed, if we're working together, what's the best way to communicate? Do you prefer Slack or text or Zoom or voice, whatever? And we'll learn each other's styles and preferences and work that way. And then I'll learn you have your quirks and behavior patterns, and I have my quirks and behavior patterns. And I started to realize the AI does too. The different models have different patterns and behaviors and preferences and biases and communication styles. So here's my challenging question. Nobody's said yes to this. Have you ever asked AI the best way to communicate with it?
I have asked it to help me give it prompts. So I guess in a certain way, yes. Like I'll give it kind of structure out, almost like give it, help it, it will help me plan. And so I'll give it my goal. Then I'll say, help me ask you in the best possible prompt to achieve this goal. And so somewhat, I haven't asked for its specific communication preferences. Is that something that you've done?
Yeah. And it was unreal. And this came from a problem. I gave it a prompt twice and I got two diverging answers. And I said, I don't understand. Why'd you give me two different answers when it's the same prompt? And it said, because there are assumptions in this that aren't said. I didn't know if you wanted cost optimization or speed. So one answer is for cost, the other one's for speed. They're different answers as a result. And I thought, well, what's the best way to communicate with you then? I literally asked it, like, how's the best way to, it's akin to what you're saying about prompting. It's learning how to prompt better. I don't write prompts anymore. I let it write its own prompts now.
Mhm.
But I asked it, like, what's the best way to communicate? And its answer was JSON. I'm like, whoa, hold on.
Oh, wow.
What? You prefer JSON? I was like, yeah, I prefer structured content over anything else. And I was kind of blown away. And that's led to various breakthroughs that I have. But I'm going down this path that AI is more like a human and we should treat it more like a human, not exactly a human, and get different results than if it's just a tool. So to go back to what you're doing with FINNY and how you guys think about it, are you thinking about them as actual team members for yourselves and or your clients?
For our clients, so FINNY as a platform, yes. I think it's democratized for a lot of our clients the ability to have a sales and marketing team. And so when we think about some of our clients in smaller RAs, maybe they're just getting started, maybe 1 to 5 person teams, they typically don't have someone fully dedicated to marketing or sales or an associate even doing that. And so FINNY actually replaces the need for someone like an associate and also does the work that no one really wanted to do. Like no associate was thrilled to be researching thousands of people and then drafting personalized messages for each of those 1,000 people and then following up with them. Right. So it replaces and it democratizes access to what would have been a pretty costly hire.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about that a lot. So where do you guys sit in this world of agentic workflows and trying to, I mean, the whole world this year is about agent, 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 agent. And even the definition of agent is fluid. Like, what does it really mean? So what's your view of this and where do you guys sit?
Well, we build only for financial advisors, so we're in a slightly more regulated industry than most. And right now, we've taken the stance that the most agents can do, and that's called 99% of the work, but require a human stamp of approval at the end of the day, and that human will be the advisor. And so, semi-agentic is where I would put things. And I'll give you an example. One of our agents helps our advisors with their content creation, and so what the agent can do is research the advisor, research their value proposition online, and then draft suggested content. It's up to the advisor to then read it over, approve it, and post it, right? And so there's that like last mile for both SEC and FINRA regulations. You actually need to have a human oversight, and so it's semi-agentic, I would say, or agentic in the sense that it's autonomously researching, autonomously drafting, following up. You don't need to prompt it; it's doing all this on its own but still requires that final approval.
So I'm wondering if you guys are talking to companies that are doing the compliance reviews. I had Patrick Hannon of Fidelity Labs, and they have a product. The name's escaping me. That is doing compliance reviews with 40 years of history at Fidelity of compliance management. Are you guys thinking about doing that yourself or partnering?
So right now we almost are agnostic. We will partner with any of the compliance tools or teams that our clients are already using. It's built so we can just integrate really easily with any of their teams. The tool that's been coming up a lot, and I think they're an awesome company and team, is Hadrius. They're compliance for RAs, and they, from what I hear, are absolutely crushing it. And every advisor that I've spoken to that uses them is a big fan. So they are, I think, the up and coming compliance for financial advisor tool.
Okay, cool. All right. I don't get to do this a lot. I want to talk future. I'm not asking your age, but you're younger than me. You've come from this background of AI. I've learned it along the way. And I think you might have a different perspective of what the future looks like. And especially with what you're building and being a new category, new type of product. So where do you think we are going with AI? What part of our lives does it become, and where does that relegate the rest of us?
Really good question. The answer that I keep reverting to is that it's going to bring out everyone's spikes. I don't know about you, but when I was in college, but which is now in a different generation. And when I went to college, my parents told me, pick the path that'll keep as many doors open for you. I'm sure you've heard this advice before. And so I went into engineering, and then I went into consulting and private equity, and I just became the best generalist. I was a great generalist. I kind of knew a little bit about everything, and I was a jack of all trades. You can put me in a bunch of different situations, and I can pretty much figure it out. But right now, if I went back to college, or if I was giving advice to someone who was, kind of picking their major, I'd say, like, pick the spikiest thing you can do, the thing that'll differentiate you the most, the opposite of being well-rounded. Like, pick two or three things that make you like really weird and stand out, and that none of your peers can do as well as you. And then let the AI kind of do the rest. Let the AI be the generalist, this general purpose AI that has all this information and can do like an 80% okay job at basically everything. Outsource everything to there, and then be better at the AI and be an expert in a handful of things that make you super different. And I think that's where we're trending towards, just like less well-rounded people, more spiky people.
Okay, I love this term spike. I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't heard about that. I think what you're really getting at is that AI, in some ways, is allowing us to be the artisans again, where we can specialize and really go deep on something. And look, I laugh about this. When I was 12, I must have raised my hand and said, when I grow up, I want to do forums, because I know more about forums than probably anybody else in the world. And it's super geeky, nerdy, and boring, but I'm excited about it. And therefore, I can do things nobody else can do with forums. And I think that creates the differentiation that you're talking about, is have a specialty, have a focus. Now that's really interesting. Where do you see products going? And I'm going to give you an idea, by the way. I'm right now designing a website that is primarily driven by AI. I'm kind of done with the whole, hey, I got to log into a dashboard, click, 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 click. Why can't I just tell the AI, hey, go add a user, go tell me the status, go start a project, whatever it is? I've never seen your product, so maybe your product's already like that. But where do you think we're going to go with tech and AI's part in tech?
Yeah, this is something that I've said from the very beginning of AI, which is that like user interfaces are going to become obsolete. And AI is just going to start meeting us the way we communicate with each other. You kind of alluded to this earlier when you were talking about everyone's different communication styles. And so let's say, Rich, you love to kind of like think out loud, and you're a really great verbal communicator. Your AIs you should be able to prompt them and give orders and interact with all your systems in the same way that you feel comfortable, which might be a phone call. And so I think there will be a world in which you can just call the different apps that you need and communicate and give orders and prompts over the phone, and everything else should be abstracted away. And if someone prefers written, if someone prefers email or text, that should be available to them also. And so having to retrain yourself and relearn all these different like user interfaces, I think is going to be a thing of the past. It's really clunky. It's hard to remember. User interfaces are changing so much also as technology is changing. I just don't think that's where the future is going.
Yeah, I love this vision, but I'm also kind of stymied with how we get there,
Yep.
because we have all these walls, right? We have different authentications. and we have different devices. I have an iPhone, maybe somebody else has a Google Pixel or whatever. Um, when you're talking about this idea that we just communicate and it does what we need, oh, the first thing that came to mind was my to-do list. I can't figure out where to keep my to-do list. It's in 8 different places. So if I could just be on a walk and, oh, I have an idea. Hey, Siri, add this to my to-do list, and it goes back in and does all the work. How do we get there? Like, how do we actually link all these pieces together? And what does it really look like? Do I want to log into a chat GPT interface every time I want to go do something with software? I don't think that's right.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not sure. I don't have a strong opinion on whether it'll be a series of apps that are just all available to you on your phone by phone call or by text, or it'll be some sort of super app that kind of like a super to-do list or a super aggregator of like your personal model that is the layer between you and everything else, almost like an orchestrator, where you're putting a to-do list in one place, and then it's assigning things to 10 different apps, and it's organizing all your life for you, kind of like what a chief of staff or a personal assistant would do right now.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure about. It's a good question.
All right. Well, this leads me into something else. And this is a challenge that I've been playing with for 9 months. And it really comes down to this: deterministic versus probabilistic. Software is built so that 1 + 1 always equals 2. It's always does the same thing every time. And I already mentioned I gave the same prompt twice to an AI and it gave me 2 different answers. And it probably would give me a third answer the third try. How do we get AI to be more deterministic? And therefore, can we make it truly autonomous?
Yeah, it's something we think about a lot. Obviously, as we're building AI tools in an industry that's regulated, we actually need it to like force it to start being more deterministic. AI's gotten a lot better at being more deterministic with structured outputs over the last, let's call it 2 years. I could actually nerd out a little bit and tell you about really interesting product development learning that we did that had to do with structured outputs and more deterministic outputs. So when we started FINNY 2 years ago, we wanted to give our advisors the ability to search in natural language, similar to how you would query ChatGPT. And so we wanted them to be able to search for a person or run a query for, to build an audience in English. And then the idea was that would actually then query an entire database of 300 million people and output a structured output of a list of people. The problem is that 2 years ago, so 2024, AI was really, really bad at deterministic structured outputs. And so it just was breaking 25% of the time. 25% of queries are breaking it, and that's obviously not production ready applications. And so we had to can the idea of natural language into structured outputs at that point. We're now bringing it back for the first time in 2 years because the underlying models have gotten better and better and better at kind of converging towards deterministic answers if you can structure the prompts and the context in the right way. So I think we're getting there.
I think the models play a really, really big part, but I have a different strategy.
Okay.
And I actually proved this out recently with my strategy. So first of all, the strategy is same thing with humans. If I give you one task that's simple to do, I would reasonably expect you to be able to do it. If I gave you a task that was 18 steps, all encompassing with 5 different topics, et cetera, that's really hard. And we're not going to get the exact results every time. So AI is a similar way. I think the smaller the work item is, the more deterministic the AI acts, as long as you give it boundaries and role and you're trying to help it understand what you're doing. So what I've done is I've been building software that builds software. And when I break it into small enough pieces, it just works. I tested this. I gave it the higher end model, Opus versus Sonnet at Claude. The Opus result was worse. The Sonnet result was better because the bigger model, the more advanced model, overthought it, over-engineered it, and didn't just want to do the task anymore. Whereas Sonnet was like, I'll do the task. Sure, no problem. Get it done. So I think part of the strategy is to think about our workflows and our pieces of the puzzle and make them small enough so that the agent can be focused so well that it can be more constrained in how it works.
That's super interesting. What kind of tasks were you giving to Sonnet, for example?
Let's see. This was in the form of this. Well, this was actually software development. So it had a task to do some piece of software coding. And what it ended up with, Sonnet would come out with a smaller footprint than Opus would.
Right.
Opus was just more robust. I didn't need more robust. I needed the exact thing Sonnet was doing over and over again. So I was paying higher fees, taking longer to do it, and getting more outcome than I wanted. Another one was document generation.
Mm-hmm.
So like think of like a business plan. I have this whole conversation, turn this into a business plan. I don't need a 28-page business plan.
Right.
I need the concise version. And Sonnet was like, here's the concise version. It was just fascinating to see, how it
It is
did it.
super fascinating. I'm wondering, do you have any tasks that you now still would give to Opus?
No, not the way I've architected this. Um,
Interesting.
frankly, I know Opus is really advanced, but I think it's so advanced, I'm not doing anything that advanced. I'm not trying to calculate, DNA sequences or something really crazy. I just think of software and the tasks that we're doing as bite-sized tasks. So for example, here's another thing I did. I created a voice profile of myself. I had Claude Cowork using Sonnet just go get all my transcripts of all my podcasts. That was one step. Second step, second task, take all those podcasts and isolate my words from it. Third different task, read all those words and figure out what the density of statements and the themes and things and how I talk so you can replicate how I talk better.
Mm-hmm.
And analyze it. I don't know, like maybe I could have done all that in one step with Opus, but I just think if you give it one thing, it does one thing really well, then you can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to test this out because this is definitely super interesting. I hadn't thought about breaking up complex tasks into more simple tasks for lower cost, lightweight models.
Yeah. There's actually a repo out there that does this even more, and they claim they'll reduce your API costs by 75% because they can isolate lower end tasks to lower end models, even lower than Sonnet, for example.
Right.
I'm not thinking at that level because I'm kind of generic, just get it done. But do you guys have, and this will be the last question because we're going to wrap this up. Do you guys have like an AI design philosophy that is driving how you do things inside your company? Because I've never heard anybody talk about how do we approach AI? It's just like use it, go.
Yes, this is so timely. Over the last 2 months, we've been building this internally. So for the non-technical staff on our team, what we do is we actually have an entire, well, we have Cloud set up for everyone on the team, and we have entire internal tools available to them for them to start building on top of for their own personal productivity. And we heavily encourage the entire team to do that. That's on the kind of like non-technical. On the technical side, our engineers are spending a lot of their time researching and just staying up to date on everything that is AI versus just now like product development. Like we've actually traded off like product velocity right now in lieu of just better research because I think you can do a lot of you could do a lot more work if you just use the right tools. And so the opportunity cost of not using those tools is really high. So we've actually been forcing a lot of and encouraging a lot of lunch and learns, bringing in guest speakers, hackathons. We have an AI hackathon coming up this week for our team to showcase the best internal productivity tools for their own use.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It's so inspiring. My team is asking more and more to do stuff on their own, and I'm encouraging it. And I would like to get to that point. So good inspiration. Okay, I'm running over time, so I got to wrap this up. Before I get to my very last question, what is the best way for people to find and connect with you, Evan?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is just my name. Our website is finny.com. And so if there's any advisors that wants to grow their businesses, I'll give a shameless plug and say go to finny.com and book a demo. We're available at most right now broker dealers and RAs, and so that you can just sign up and get yourself started directly. And yeah, those would be the best ways to get in touch with me or my team.
And from what I heard, book the 30-minute demo, really get the full picture, maybe a 45-minute demo. Give her
Right,
the time.
exactly.
Just helping you guys.
Exactly. And then if you're curious and you want to do async learning, you can also just look us up on YouTube. We have a ton of content there for you to just learn about Finny on your own time.
Awesome. That is awesome. Okay, here's my last question I love to ask. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
I love that question. It's a good one. I haven't had to think about that in a while. So my answer is a little off the cuff, but I would say the leader in our industry that I think about quite a bit, and I think I've emulated a lot of learnings from him is Jason Wenk, the CEO of Altruist. He, over the last few years, has become angel investor in my company and also just super helpful to me. But I think the reason that I look up to him is he architected the idea of really building in public, creating an entire cult like following on LinkedIn or social media, specifically in our industry. And people really want him to win because of it. Like people are rooting for him, whether or not they're altruist clients. And I think that's just a really, really great leadership skill to have. And so I've tried in my own version and format to emulate a lot of that just by being really public about, what's going on under the scene, behind the scenes at FINNY, the wins and the losses, what's it like building an AI company, and just trying to really help, lift the curtain on everything we're doing. And a lot of that I get from Jason.
Oh, that is awesome. That is really awesome to hear. I wish we had more time, and you and I should have more conversations. This has been so much fun. And I got to wrap it up. So I want to thank Eden Ovadia, CEO and co-founder of FINNY, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Eden's website at FINNY, FINNY.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Eden, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Rich. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.